It's 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. First item is adoption of the agenda. Moved by Paul Mitchell, seconded by Steve McDonald, that the agenda be adopted as amended. With one suggestion, Paul suggested that we do 8.6C ahead of 8.6B. So that's the, what he's suggesting is that we hear the report on the ZMC ahead of the report on the child care RFP. So if everybody's agreeable to that, I'll just juggle those when we get to them. Nodding heads, so we'll just go ahead with that. So all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Not seeing any. Minutes moved by Steve McDonald, seconded by Paul Mitchell, that the minutes from the April 6th, 2022 council meeting be adopted as printed and circulated. Are there any issues with those minutes? Katie.
My apologies. I meant to reach out ahead of time. 7.B has Davies. Sorry. Thank you.
Be adopted as amended. Moved by McDonald, seconded by Mitchell, that the minutes from the April 6th, 2022 council meeting be adopted as amended and circulated. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we have 4 timed items tonight. Minor variance at 6 o'clock, zone change at 6 o'clock, zone change at 6 o'clock, and delegation at 6:30. Well, it'll be up to you guys how fast you want to go at this. But you know the clock's ticking now. So, moved by Paul Mitchell, seconded by Steve McDonald, that the council meeting be adjourned at 6:01 p.m. for the purposes of holding a public meeting pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So, I guess you guys know the deal on this. We're going to sit, we're in a public meeting now. We're going to sit as Committee of Adjustment, deal with the zone change. We're going to decide on that, minor variance, decide on that. Then we go to your zone change and another zone change, come out of the public meeting before we decide on yours. I just don't want you to think we skipped over you when we move on. So, 6A, Spencer. Minor variance application AO4-22 submitted by Wilfred Berg and Maria Burks pertaining to lands described as part of Lot 25, Concession 1, North Oxford in the Township of Zorra. What would you like to highlight for the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to members of council, staff, and members of the public who are joining us here tonight. The application for minor variance we're dealing with tonight affects property on the 45th line, on the east side of 45th line, just south of Road 68. And you'll see there in the report, they're requesting relief from 2 different sections of the zoning bylaw provisions as they pertain to accessory uses. In this case, it's related to the gross floor area. There's an increase from 170 square meters to just over 220 square meters, and then there's also an increase to the maximum permitted height. The structure that the applicants are hoping to build is actually going to be used to house antique tractors and trussing equipment, and they're, quite frankly, don't want to see this equipment deteriorating any further, so they're trying to get this built to suit. As a result of circulation, there were no real comments or concerns that arise, so staff are recommending approval tonight, and I'm happy to address any questions that council might have.
Questions from the committee? And the applicant is here virtually. Do you want to speak to your They're not? Oh, okay. All right, well, that's simpler. And therefore no questions for the applicant. So then what I have is moved by Steve McDonald, seconded by Paul Mitchell, that the Township of Zorra Committee of Adjustment approve application AO4-22 submitted by Wilfred Berg and Maria Burks for lands described as Part Lot 25, Concession 1, North Oxford, municipally known as 454964 45th line in the Township of Zorra, as it relates to relief from section 5.1, table 5.1.1.3, regulations for accessory uses. 1, to increase the maximum permitted gross floor area from 170 square meters, 1,830 square feet, to 223 square meters, 2,400 square feet. And 2, to increase the maximum permitted height from 5 meters, 16.4 feet, to 7 meters, 23 feet, to facilitate the construction of a proposed structure accessory to a residential use on a property zoned residential existing lot zone RE in the Township of Zorra. Does anybody want to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I assume, Spencer, you'll be getting back to them to let them know their next steps and everything? Thank
Yes,
you.
I will.
And while we are in public meeting then, Spencer, zone change application ZN 5-21-07 submitted by 1326502 Ontario Limited and Constance Henderson pertaining to lots described as Part Lot 1 and Part Road Allowance Concession 11 East Naizuri in the Township of Zorra. What would you like to highlight for council on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The application before you tonight for zone change is really to satisfy a condition for a related application for consent, which was approved a number of months ago by the Committee of Adjustment, Land Division Committee rather. The only things to highlight for this report is there is a change in zoning in this case to go into a more appropriate zone rather than the RE zone. This one will go into a rural residential special. There's a noted deficiency in the lot depth. However, as a result of circulation, there were no issues that arise from the application itself, and we are recommending approval tonight. I'm happy to address any questions, and I believe the applicant is also available to do the same.
Any questions from council for the planner? Not seeing any. And is the applicant there?
Yes.
And is there anything you want to, would you like to speak to your application?
No. No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Are there any questions for the applicant? And nobody here from the public to speak to this application? No? Okay. So then, just so you understand, we're going to move on to the next application. We're going to hear from the planner, go through the same process, then come out of the public meeting, and then council will be deciding on your application, okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right then, Spencer. Zone change application ZN 5-22-02 submitted by Amy and Scott Lichty pertaining to lands described as part lot 28, concession 4, West Zorra, Township of Zorra. What would you like to highlight for council there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see on the report before you tonight, this application for zone change is to extend the allowance for a garden suite to remain in place. The specified timelines are contained in the report, so it is a 3-year period of time. The applicants are welcome to continue to apply beyond that period should they still require the garden suite. There were no comments received as a result of circulation, and in general, staff are satisfied that the application does represent good planning, and we have no concerns with it. I'm happy to address any questions, and the applicants are here tonight as well if you have questions of them.
Questions for Spencer on the application? Not seeing any. Do you guys wish to speak to your application? Questions for the applicants? Anybody here from the public? This is really easy tonight. I'm really enjoying that. Then I have moved by Paul Mitchell, seconded by Steve McDonald, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting be adjourned at 6:00. I'm good? Okay, 6:07 p.m. And the regular meeting of council be called back to order. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And then I have moved by Paul Mitchell, seconded by Steve McDonald, that the Council of the Township of Zorra approve the zone change application ZN 5-21-07 submitted by 1326502 Ontario Limited and Constance Henderson, whereby the lands described as Part Lot 1, Concession 11, and part of the original road allowance between Concessions 11 and 12, East Naizuri, Parts 1 and 2, Reference Plan 41R-10155, Township of Zorra, are to be rezoned from residential existing zone RE to special rural residential zone RR-25 to recognize the use of the lands as non-farm rural residential with a reduced minimum lot depth of 30 meters, 98.4 feet. Does anybody wish to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And they were not here, right? I think. On the phone? That was them? Okay. Are they still there? Yes. So
Yes.
Just follow up with Spencer and or Mike before you guys proceed with anything, and they'll let you know about your timelines because there is a waiting period on this.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And moved by Steve McDonald, seconded by Paul Mitchell, that the council, excuse me, that the council of the Township of Zorra approved, now you're all glad I'm wearing a mask, that the council of the Township of Zorra approve the zone change application ZN 5-22-02 submitted by Amy and Scott Lichty, whereby the lands described as Part Lot 28, Concession 4, West Zorra, Township of Zorra, to amend the provisions of the Special General Agricultural Zone, A2-28, to recognize the garden suite on the property as a temporary use for an additional 3-year period. Does anybody wish to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And you guys said you've done this before, so you know, I mean, you don't have to do anything. It's not going anywhere, right? So now you don't have to worry about it going anywhere. Thanks.
Yep.
So we've got until 6:30 for the delegation, so I'm going to suggest that we head down to 8.4A, Public Works Department. Report 2022-073 from the Director of Public Works regarding a construction update of the Zorra Maintenance Facility. Steve, is there anything you want to highlight in that?
Just the one, in particular, the sand salt shed has seen some delays. They haven't started putting the overhead hoops up yet. The soil conditions inside the building weren't stable enough to set up the crane, so they're doing some drainage right now and getting some drier material in there, so they hope they can do that within the next few days. The drier weather will help.
Questions for Steve on that report? Paul?
Thanks, Steve, for including that information about the bright span structure. I found that interesting, how that's all put together. And the same question I asked last council meeting, have we received a response from Chamberlain to our letter of concern?
Yes, we did receive a letter. We are just preparing a rebuttal for that. Steve and I went over that this morning, so we will have something back to them, and we'll likely have a call with them this week to discuss every point listed in there.
That's good, thank you.
Anybody else on this report? Moved by Forbes, seconded by Grigg, that report 2022-073 from the Director of Public Works be received and filed for information purposes only. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thanks,
Just
Steve.
an add to that
Yep.
report. I did request, as I said in my report, an update on the well drilling. I did receive something back, and that will be in my next report.
Okay.
Right now, though, just if anybody's curious, they're hoping to have them finished by June 1st. So fingers crossed.
Okay. You're a brave man saying that out loud when you didn't have to, but it's your neck. 8.5A, Finance Department. Report 2022-075 from the Director of Finance regarding 2022 tax rates as part of the passing of the 2022 budget process. Diane, is there anything you want to highlight in there for council?
No, I don't have anything.
Any questions from council? Not seeing any. I would just make one comment. Oh, now my notes are gone. One second. Yeah, just that, as I've said before, it was a good budget process, later than we all wanted it to be, but I think it went well. I think we're all happy with it. I think this is, for this council, this is the fourth budget that we've done, and every one of them came in less than consumer price index, with the exception of the first year where I think it was 0.1% over what inflation was. So I think that's good budgeting in my opinion overall, and happy to see it continue with our new Director of Finance in this year. So again, thanks. No other questions for Diane? Moved by Grigg, seconded by Forbes, that council enact bylaw 29-22 to formally adopt the 2022 bylaw for the 2022 tax rates. Anybody want to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And 614. 8.6A, Corporate Services Department. Report 2022-074 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding an update to the Code of Conduct for Municipal Council Policy. Karen, is there anything you want to highlight in there for council?
No, nothing in particular. Just updating it to include the integrity commissioner wording to bring it a little more up to date with our actual integrity commissioner agreement that we have.
Questions from council on that report? Katie? It's a balk.
Sorry, I have a motion that you haven't read yet. I'll save it for when you've read your motion.
Okay.
I've amended it, so
Yep.
I'll speak to it then.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions before I read the motion? Moved by Grigg, seconded by Forbes, that council enact bylaw 25-22 to adopt policy 100-11 code of conduct for council as amended. Katie, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, please. This was actually great timing to see this come forward. I think there's been some, we've had excellent working relationships here since I've been here and ahead of my time here as a spectator. Great to see great working relationships. But if we wait until there's a problem to make sure that we have everything in place to deal with the problem, then it's not going to function very well. The only small change that I've proposed with this that's referred to as the amendment is under 14.2. There's a list of harassment may be defined as any behavior by any person that is directed at or is offensive to another person on the grounds of. And then there's a listing of different, on different grounds. And I just was proposing to update the language. One of the words says handicap, and I propose for that to be changed to disability. It has the same connotation, it's just an update of language.
Anyone else? Sorry. I hit the button, I thought. We'll skip 8.6B and C until after the delegation, so maybe we'll jump down to 9, correspondence requiring direction. So I have, under 9A, correspondence from Mississippi Mills, moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald. Whereas the Township of Zorra has experienced annual cost of premium increase of 17%, 24%, and 20% in the last 3 years for insurance coverage for the municipality, therefore the Township of Zorra supports Resolution 22-6-064 entitled Request to the Province of Ontario for a Plan of Action to Address Joint and Several Liability passed by the City of Barrie, and that the Township of Zorra supports Resolution 080-22 passed by the Municipality of Mississippi Mills regarding the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, submission entitled Towards a Reasonable Balance Addressing Growing Municipal Liability and Insurance Costs, and that this motion of support and the 2 resolutions listed above be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Finance Peter Bethlen-Falvey, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Steve Clark, MPP for Oxford Ernie Hardeman, AMO, and all Ontario municipalities. Paul, as the mover, do you want to speak to that?
I thought this was a timely motion, considering that we recently had a discussion about our renewal of our insurance premiums and the huge increase that we're facing. And part of the discussion was there's virtually no competition out there, and there's not a whole lot we can do to deal with the situation. But one of the reasons that insurance premiums are so high for the municipality is joint and several liability. And when I attended the Good Roads Conference in 2019, that was the hot topic at that conference, partially because the province, which was relatively new elected at that time, had said that they would be addressing this issue and the problems it was causing for municipalities. AMO has developed a list of 7 recommendations, which are included in one of the motions, and I think that they all make sense. I think both motions from Mississippi Mills and Barrie have good points. That's why I did a slightly unusual thing that I recommended we support both of the motions rather than just one. And I think that we need to put some pressure on the provincial government, especially in an election year. In 3 years, they have not done anything to address joint and several, and we need to support other municipalities to somehow come to some solutions as recommended by AMO. So that's why I brought forward the support resolution.
Steve is the seconder. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, I concur 100% with Paul. Something has to be done about these insurance rates. I don't know what. I'm not even proposing I would know what to do, but somebody's got to do something about it. And both Mississippi Mills and Barrie, yeah, I'm 100% behind their letters. And I don't have a solution. I don't pretend to, but somebody up at the higher levels has got to get their nose involved.
Anyone else? I will say, I did speak at OGRA last week on Monday, I think it was. Dawn was at the Intact Insurance, because that's who our carrier is now. It's not really, I guess I think they're still called Cowan, but they're owned by Intact. I'm not sure where that's at with name changes and stuff, but anyway. Talked to a guy named Larry Ryan, president and principal broker at Intact, and told him of our concerns, and that, I said I didn't expect him to wave a wand and all of a sudden our insurance increase would go to 2%, but that what we were seeing was unsustainable, and that he was aware then that we had put it out for RFP, or that we had given direction to council to staff to do that, and so he got back to me and said that they would be talking with our staff when that happens and looking for options. But really, in conversation with him, the only things that he talked about really were, some level of self-insuring, basically just saying there's some things we're just not going to insure at the same level as we did before, and taking that risk on ourselves, which is, certainly an option. Yeah, he largely gave the same story that Don had given us in his consultation already with them, which is that there's, the main brokers out there that carry the risk, and everybody's feeling that same weight of that. So it was not super productive conversation, I would say. But there you go, just an update for you. Anybody else want to speak to that? Steve?
This is just something wild that I'm throwing out. I've been thinking about this since the agenda came out. But there is one form of it would be a similar thing as to the WSIB, where the government stripped individuals' rights to sue their employers. Maybe they can do something similar to strip the ability to come after the municipality, and then it's panned out through another. I'm just throwing it out there. Would that kind of a plan be able to be modeled in a similar conscript?
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And 623, so I think we could probably do 10, excuse me, 10 boards and committees. 10A, Zorra Multis Courts Committee, moved by Forbes, seconded by Grigg, that item 10A be received and filed for information purposes only. Does anybody want to speak to that one on the Zorra Multis Courts Committee?
I think we're still in a bit of a transitional time, budget being approved. There's some great information to relay back to the committee about some of the decisions that council has been making, and I think those decisions were well received, and the committee is energized to get to work. We did have Kate Lockhart join us, which was really great, and I think the existing members are feeling re-energized on this project. I think both because now we can actually start doing some fundraising, as well as having the new member involved, and we're still in the process of recruiting for another member, and hopefully we'll get another good one in the group and then get rolling with some fundraising.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And 11. So I have a motion here to receive and file both 11A and B. Does anybody want to do anything different than that? Anybody want to speak to either of those? Moved by Grigg, seconded by Forbes, that items 11A to B be received and filed for information purposes only. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. No unfinished business, no notices of motion. Won't do the bylaws yet. Maybe we could do items of community interest in the calendar, and that should pretty much take us up to 6:30 and the delegation. So, what I'm showing on here is Oxford County new chief librarian starts on Monday. Oxford County Council next Wednesday. And then Zorra Heritage Committee, I guess, is starting work up again. They're going to be meeting on next Tuesday evening, I think, 3rd. Is that right? Or sorry, not next Tuesday, the week after. I have that in my calendar anyway. I think somebody sent out a meeting about that. Sam or somebody did. And then we're back here on the 4th. So I would just, one thing I would point out to council, I guess, while we're looking at it, is by the time we're back here for the next council meeting, we'll be past the period where people can file nominations. So just a reminder to everybody to be respectful of the different time that staff are in once the, people are filing for elections and all that kind of stuff, that, we have to be respectful of those boundaries once that all starts, right? I mean, I think we all are generally anyway, but for them, it really does change a little bit once that date opens up. So just a reminder for us all to be respectful of that. Steve? How what? I think that for them, they have to be, I don't know if they have to be or not. I think they're always good at it, but I think that they are a little bit sensitive to the fact that once the nomination date opens and people can file papers, that then anybody who files, including sitting members of council, are candidates at that point, right? And so they want to be especially clear, not that there ever is favoritism, but they want to be especially clear and transparent that there isn't any, right? They don't want somebody who's filed to run for mayor to think that I'm getting preferential treatment because I'm in here every 2 weeks for a council meeting kind of thing, right? So I just think I'm just encouraging us all to be just extra respectful and understanding that they're going to be extra careful of that for anybody who's not familiar with the process and is filing for the first time kind of thing, so.
Yeah, and along that line, I don't know how many people sat in on the candidate training session last Thursday, but our best buddy Fred Dean, who I can listen to for hours, had a lot of good advice, and he covered some of that information. The other item is next Tuesday, which I believe is the 26th, is the next Upper Thames Board meeting.
Okay. Steve? I haven't seen, I don't have one in my calendar for this Thursday either, so. Well, I can't say that, but if you are missing it, I'm missing it too, so, yeah. Yeah. Items of community interest, and are we at 6:29? Good enough. Okay. So, Crescent Ridge, 6:30?
Thanks, Alicia.
So I would just say, assume that council's done their homework and gone through your presentation, but we're moving along pretty quick here tonight, so there's not really a whole lot of rush, but
Yep.
you're probably going to get, I pretty much guarantee you're going to get questions tonight, so.
Of course.
I'll turn it over to you then.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could we get the presentation brought up, Dawn, I think? Thank you. unfortunately. That's okay. Yep, no problem. So I'm Ryan Parton from Crescent Ridge Services. I'm co-president along with my partner Kenyon, and this is Mike Kraus. He's our technical lead. We are a full-service electrical contractor based out of Tavistock. We specialize in agricultural, being in Tavistock naturally, as well as renewable energy. So we've been installing solar for about 12 years now.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, been operating 30 years in our, what we affectionately call the GTA, the Greater Tavistock area.
It is actually Greater Chelmsford area, just so you know.
Sorry.
But, it's
My
all right, well,
apologies. Sorry. It's the GTA anyway. We're all amalgamated now, right? So our vision is to, if my phone would stop moving, to provide high quality, knowledgeable, and excellent electrical service that stands the test of time for green energy and electrical vehicle markets. So we do install a lot of EV chargers as well. And our mission statement is to build long-term relationships with our clients and provide exceptional customer experiences with top-tier electrical service. So we try to do our best for you guys. We built a lot of systems, and that's what we were trying to highlight there. If you do play that video, my caution, keep the volume down on there. But up in Waterloo, just north of Waterloo, University of Waterloo, we constructed Evolve 1. Consisted of 264 kilowatts of rooftop, which was under a FIT contract, as well as 504 kilowatts of carports that you can physically park under and view the solar panels right above you. I think we were on slide 5, Don, or sorry, yeah, 4. Are you able to play the video there?
I think you click on it.
No? That's okay. We'll let you guys review that when you have a chance. We also built MCC Ontario, which is the next
Oh, there we go.
up. Sorry about the volume. So this was during the construction process, how we built the carports.
This is Canada's first net zero building, or actually net positive building. So it's a big LEED platinum building. We were happy to be part of it. It's a very special project. Like Brian mentioned, we've been doing this for 12 years. We started very small, doing small trackers in farmers' fields, and slowly built up. We've done all kinds of, now by this time, industrial facilities, commercial facilities, and still a lot of agricultural barns as well. But this is certainly one of the highlights of one of the projects we've done.
And we're hoping to do a similar video for you guys for the Zorra maintenance facility, of course. So right now you can see the inverters on the wall, and this was just a drone view during construction of the carports and the rooftop. Lots of solar panels on the property. I think it was well over 1,000.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Closer to 2.
I think so.
And then the slide after this is another building we did in Kitchener. It's the MCC Ontario building at 50 Kent. It's an elevated steel structure, basically a roof on a roof. The idea with that, with solar, it's a bit not intuitive. The cooler the solar panels are and the more airflow they see, the higher power output from them. So that was part of the reason for the built-up structure, as well as MCC had built standoffs into the roof for the structure. So that's kind of about us. We wanted to highlight some of our projects that we're not just a small electrical contractor based in Tavistock, a little bit more than that. Want to highlight how net metering works. So on the roof or ground, you have solar panels which convert the energy from the sun into electricity. An inverter takes that DC power, like your car battery would have, and converts it into AC power, like you would get out of a receptacle from the wall. The energy is then used in your home, and I want to highlight this because I would call this the invisible energy. What happens from a metering perspective from your utility, there's an invisible amount of kilowatt hours that are self-absorbed into your home. So if your home is using 1,000 watts and the solar is producing 2,000 watts, your home will absorb that 1,000 watts, and the other 1,000 watts will get sent to the grid. That creates your credits and reduces your hydro bill. But Hydro One or Earth, whoever utility you're attached to, they wouldn't see that self-consumed and absorbed power. So I want to highlight that because it becomes more important later when we start discussing some other stuff. After that, like I said, if you're in a positive, you're exporting to the grid scenario, your meter will run backwards during the day. The utility comes out and installs a bidirectional meter, which will run forward and backwards. So during the day, you're creating credits, and then at night, you're using those credits. And the way that we look at them, we look at a 12-month basis and try to do a net zero for your home, for your facility during that 12 months, because naturally in Canada, we produce a lot more energy in the summer than we do in the winter. And it's ideal to be able to use the grid as our battery of sorts, creating those credits and then using them up at a later date. So every kilowatt of electricity generated is a kilowatt hour you do not need to purchase from the LDC, which is Hydro One, Earth Power. If you produce more than you need, you can save those credits for up to 12 months. So every month that you have a bank created, you can save that up for up to 12 months. At the end of that 12-month period, it's a drain. Basically, they'll allow you to create those credits for up to that period, and then they drain them to zero. A large net metering system can reduce your facility's peak demand as well. So say your building is using 100 or more kilowatts of power at any instant period of time. Your utility will also charge you what's called a demand fee on top of your regular usage per kilowatt hour cost. With solar, you're reducing that demand because you're generating power at the same time as your demand occurs, and that reduces that fee. It is a little bit difficult to reliably model because you kind of need the sun to be out at the same time as that demand happens, but it is we'll call it a fringe benefit of having solar on your roof in a net metering scenario. The next thing we wanted to highlight was net metering versus FIT. We figured we might get some comments about this. So the FIT program, also known as the Green Energy Act, was an investment vehicle. So what happened was people who purchased a solar installation and had a FIT contract were given a higher rate for every kilowatt hour that they produced, and they were charged income taxes based on that. The funds from those FIT contracts are paid directly from the IESO, the Independent Electricity System Operator, and it does not affect the revenue stream for the local utilities. Whereas net metering is a cost avoidance, so you're avoiding the cost of your electricity rather than having an investment vehicle that you're making money on. It just reduces the LDC revenue, so it can be a bit more contentious with the local distributor of electricity, but so far with the regulations in Ontario, we have no issues as long as we have capacity on the grid. The next slide is our preliminary designs. So what we've done is we've looked at what is possible to fit on the rooftop on the east and west, or mostly east and mostly west roofs. So we've filled that roof completely, and then did an analysis on the energy needs of the building based on the consultant's estimates. And we found that just the rooftop alone will produce about 80% of the energy required based on those estimates, which means we need a bit of a boost from the ground-mounted portion, which is the blue that you'll see in the top left-hand corner of that. The wonderful thing about the rooftop is it's very quiet, it doesn't move, but I wanted to highlight something for council just to show you guys